Alright guys, Mike has done it again. He's done another Top 3 Tuesday. I am late to the party. I realize it has been a crazy week at work, and I'm really just now getting a moment to do this. So I wanted to go ahead and jump in there and get this one in there because I'll probably just get it uploaded in time for the next video to come out. And whatever. I have no desire to own the NES Mini, the NES Classic or whatever. I have sold off much of my retro collection, and I have a few bits and pieces left that are going to be gone before too long. There's only literally I'm really only hanging on to like 2 games, Castlevania and my Final Fantasy, and I'm only keeping these because they were signed by their composers, and that's the only reason I'm keeping them. I'm gonna get a shadow box or whatever, stick them in it, and keep it as a collectible thing. Probably will never play them again, but whatever. That's all I'm keeping, right? So I have no desire to own this thing. If I wanted something like that, I would build my own RetroPie. That it's not a bad idea. And I'd probably be happier, at least more satisfied in terms of what games are included. Mike mentioned what he was doing this video on to me, and I happened to look up what games. I think it's like 20 games were included. And I was kind of blown away. There's certain games that I would expect to see on this list that aren't there, and that's crazy. But I decided to take a different approach to this response. My response is more like not so much what games I'd expect to be there, because they're like flagship games, or like games that you kind of like, I think of the Nintendo, I think of this game. These are 3 games that I think everybody should play, and I think everyone should finish. And I think that if I were to buy this thing, these 3 games would have to be on it. If I were going to buy a NES Mini, a NES Classic, these 3 games would have to be there. It's the only way. If these were there, these not being there, pretty much, I'm definitely not going to do it. But if these were there, it would be a much harder decision. So that's the approach I took. And some people will disagree, and if you do, that's fine. Head over to Mike's page and chime in, give your opinion. I think this is fun. So let's start with the beginning. The first one, this is one that a lot of people might not know that I love, but I do enjoy it, and I think I have a lot of fun memories playing this. This is one of those that I rented a lot and never could finish. I really couldn't get very far. I couldn't get past the 2nd or 3rd level, I think. But that is Batman the video game. The game is really cool. And going back now and playing it, even going back and playing to get some footage for this video, it was a lot of fun. And it might not be one of those immediate identifier games, so to speak, for the Nintendo, but it's definitely a classic. And I really think it should have been included. The next game, this game is, if you were to buy it physically, and I owned a copy physically, a physical copy, just the cartridge, and it cost me an arm and a leg. I say an arm and a leg, it cost me more money. It was, at the time of purchasing that, it was the most expensive cartridge I'd ever bought. And I realized that this game is also not one of those games that I think, oh, Nintendo, oh, that game was on the Nintendo. Some people don't even know this game exists. If you mention it to just an average person, they might not even know it's a thing. But it's phenomenal, and I just finished it. I actually, I started just playing this game. Let me just do it. Metal Storm, okay? I realize Metal Storm is not one of those games that is, your Super Mario Brothers, your Contra, your Kung Fu, your Dragon's Quest. It's not games like that. It's not a game like that I think, man, I really identify this with the Nintendo. But it is one that is really great. It is great. And I started playing through it to get some footage for this, and I just kept going, and I kept wanting to keep going, so I would, push myself a little further and play and write down my passwords and play and write down my passwords and play, because it's a password system in that game, because it's butthole hard, but it's so good. At one point, actually, earlier today, whenever I was finishing up, my son wanted to play it too, so we both had an instance of it going and playing on each side of the room. It was great. But I realize it's not one of those that's immediately identified with the Nintendo, but it's one that is so good. So I definitely think it should have been included. So Metal Storm. And lastly, and this is probably arguably my favorite game on the system. The more I think about it and the older I get, the more I think that this game means a lot to me for a lot of different reasons. It's one of those that my dad picked out at random because he liked the cover art, and we got it at KB Toys, and they were selling off a lot of their inventory in Nintendo at one point. I remember we got Ghosts and Goblins this way too, but he picked this game out and he said, "I think you'd like it," and I hated it as a kid. When I was a littler kid. A couple years later, when I came back to it, I liked it, and it's actually, it is the first RPG I ever finished, start to finish. And those that know and those that know back some old reviews I've done know that I'm talking about Crystalis. Crystalis is one of those games. It's a different kind of RPG. It's really more of an action RPG. It's not turn-based. It is a great way to introduce people to RPG games, RPG video games. If you've never played an RPG video game, it's soft. It's a gentle game, so to speak. It's not immediately jump in there and you're like overwhelmed with hit points and magic points and leveling up. You're not overwhelmed with that. It's really more of just an overhead kind of adventure game that just happens to have RPG elements. It's one of those that you can transition into playing some of the heavier stuff. And it was great. And it really was that for me. It really opened up that genre of game. I hated that genre before. I really did. I despised RPG games before Crystalis. And once I finished it, and once I played through it and I wanted to try something else. So I tried another one, and I think the next thing I did was one of the Dragon Quest games, I think was the next one. And then Final Fantasy. Yeah, I can't remember the order, but it was one of those. And then the other one was next. Anyway, Crystalis, man, if I wanted one, it would have definitely, if I wanted a NES Classic, it would definitely have to include Crystalis. Anyway, guys, that's it. Those are my three, and I'm sure yours differ from mine. I'm sure you disagree with me, or you might agree with me, or you might agree with one or two of them, or whatever. Doesn't matter. The whole thing is share an opinion, and it's cool that Mike, I'll reiterate once again, one, thanks for the shout out last week. Two, thank you for bringing this back, kind of giving it more of a sense of community again. I like taking the time during the week and doing this and thinking about this and discussing this. I mean, we had a pretty lengthy discussion about this one, and I was actually really surprised that certain games weren't included because I hadn't done any research on it. I didn't know anything about the system, and it blew me away. Anyway, guys, thank you, Mike. Go check Mike's video out. I'll definitely leave a link somewhere, somehow, not sure where. Just go check it out and leave a response of some kind, because let's get some discussion going. Let's bring that sense of community back. I miss it, and I think this is working. I'm enjoying it. So anyway, thanks a lot.